You want to. Have a nice day. Hey, girls. Hey, guys. How's everybody?
Hola, Kevin. So a really beautiful thing happened here at Holy Cross.
I knew it would change our school. I had no idea that in the first year it would excite everybody so much.
Dual language immersion has showed time and time again through studies the benefits that it has on lifelong learning.
Yo me llamo Sofía y soy de Nicaragua.
¿Y cuántos años tienes, Sophie?
5.
We are going to do the absolute best we can to celebrate all the cultural diversity that we have in our school. And kids were excited about this.
The program gives the school a distinct identity. This is something to help live Catholicism in an increasingly diverse world.
Yo soy Katie Spunhauer y yo tengo 6 años y yo me encanta la escuela.
Holy Cross was such a great fit for everything that this program envisioned. Nothing worthwhile is easy, and I think what we're doing here is hard work, and it's so worthwhile.
We always tell the kids in the bilingual program, you have a superpower. You can speak in 2 languages.
Yo soy Kevin y yo tengo 6 años y mi nombre es Kevin y yo soy Kevin Salamón y para casar.
This has been a story of South Bend that has traditionally welcomed the immigrant to the city. And so I really feel like as a South Bend resident, what a good way to honor who South Bend has always been.
As you see the population continue to increase, the increase coincides with the population of the Latino and immigrant community. As you're on the west side of town, you see streets like Pulaski or Kosciuszko. One of our big noted parks is Pulaski Park, which speaks to the roots of the Polish immigrant community that once heavily resided on this side of town. But because of now its new immigrant roots within the Latinx community, they've dedicated the pavilion in the fields to Dolores Huerta, a longtime activist and advocate in our country. I think South Bend in its own right, it's a unique gem in the state of Indiana.
I just know my family immigrated from Europe, and thank God there were opportunities for them to learn, whether it be learn a language of English itself, but also an opportunity to really get a good solid education and then ultimately become good solid citizens. And that richness that they brought, I just see us continuing that now with just new immigrants from other areas. Here in the United States, we have to celebrate the fact that we have this rich diversity. We feel very strongly that we're just getting back to the roots of what Catholic education always did for people who were immigrating to the United States. We just happen to have now more students who might be immigrating from Central and South America, and that's wonderful.
So a really beautiful thing happened here at Holy Cross. First and foremost, it was the school community here that recognized they needed to reimagine how they served, in a particular way, the local neighborhood here in South Bend. And the school board began thinking about immersion, specifically Spanish immersion, as a programmatic strategy into that fit very well with the future of the school.
So when we first started thinking about the immersion program. We formed a partnership with the University of Notre Dame's ACE Alliance program.
There were a couple units at Notre Dame, the Institute for Latino Studies and the Alliance for Catholic Education, specifically the English as a New Language, or the ENL program, that had a particular interest in two-way dual language schools, Catholic schools. Within months, a feasibility study was conducted, and soon thereafter, we had our first year of articulation of the dual language program.
Education has always been an interest of mine because as a political science professor, education has bottom line measures of impact. You may know about how two-way immersion programs work. Half the students are predominantly Spanish speaking or bilingual, half the students are predominantly English speaking. I prefer a 90-10 model where in the first 2 years, pre-kindergarten and kindergarten students are taught in Spanish 90% of the time, in English 10% of the time, all of the students. And then you go from there to 80-20 and then 70-30 and then 60-40 and then ultimately 50-50 by the 4th, 5th grade.
¿Qué día? Miércoles. ¿Quién dijo miércoles? Yo creo que le voy a dar una estrellita a Baby Curry. A ver. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
We had really tremendous expertise at Notre Dame that was really well fitted for what Holy Cross was trying to do and the type of school that Holy Cross is.
Well, there are many patron saints. There are patron saints of students. St. Catherine.
I was giving a talk after Mass one day about what the program was, just before it got started, about what the program was, what the aspirations were, and so forth. We thought it was very important that the parishioners know and have a chance to ask questions. And this grandmother, I think she looked like a grandmother, and she had two small children with her. And she came up to me and she said, "I'm not sure about this. I understand what you're saying, but I'm not sure about this. I think kids who come from families who don't speak English should learn English." And I said, you know what? That's exactly what this program is about. It's about helping them learn English better than ever before and learn their native language better than they might ever have learned it. And she takes a couple steps back and she says, "You mean if there were a program like this when I was a little girl, I would have been able to speak Polish to my grandmother? Because I was never able to speak to my grandmother because she only spoke Polish." And I said, this is exactly what this program is designed to do. She got tears in her eyes and she said, "I'm behind you. I'm with you. This is a good program."
Otra vez. Había abejas zumbando en las flores y aves chapoteando en el agua limpia del bebedero. Ahora leemos las tres juntas. 1, 2 y 3. Al terminar el día, el jardín se veía lindo otra vez.
If you walk into one of our two-way Spanish immersion classrooms, one of the first things you'll notice is it looks just like any other of our classrooms. If you walk into a first grade classroom, you'll see students adding and subtracting, you'll see students reading, doing science projects. But some of the practices that you will find are that teachers are being very intentional about building bridges to comprehension. Because of course, our students aren't getting translations. No, the entire instruction is in Spanish.
9, ¿qué más? El 70. O 70, ya, O 70. La otra, I 20. I 20. ¿Cómo va, Jackson? ¿Te lo entiendes? 8 más 8, son 8 amarillos. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 y 8 rojos. 1, 2, 3.
Cuando terminen ahí, ven para darte pez bingo. Y Sofía sigue. Sofía, sigue allí con Bryce. Con Bryce me ayuda. Póngalo junto a la bolsita. Gracias. Ahora tú vas a hacer aquí.
It really is a very powerful model of learning. It's incredible to watch happen before you. It's just extraordinary what our kids have learned in such a short amount of time.
Teaching in the immersion program it brings its own unique challenges, but also its own excitement. I started at Holy Cross as the pre-K teacher, so the first teacher in the immersion program. It's a lot of fun because you get to start with only half of your class really understanding what you're saying, and so a lot of it is intentionally building vocabulary. So what that looks like in the immersion program is all of those things you're doing in Spanish first, which requires a little bit different of a focus. For example, when teaching a child how to read in English, you focus on individual sounds, but in Spanish, you start focusing on syllables. And then it's a lot of theater, a lot of acting, a lot of dancing, a lot of singing, a lot of engaging students in exciting ways.
We aim to have approximately balanced numbers of children who speak English at their dinner table when they go home and children who speak Spanish at the dinner table when they go home. And the idea is that both of those subsets of children are enriched by the expertise and the experience and the skill set that the other brings to the classroom.
And because they're kids, they're comfortable, they're excited, they just want to be part of everything. And so if speaking Spanish lets you be part of everything, then that's what they do.
Ahora Connor se va a parar aquí y va a tener Connor. Mira Connor. A ver, dice. Yo veo. ¿Qué significa?
By the 5th grade, students are speaking Spanish and English. All students, English dominant, Spanish dominant, without an accent, as fluently as anyone who speaks English or Spanish.
By purposely building those connections between the two languages, we're hoping to be able to help them become biliterate, bilingual, bicultural as well. Because our Spanish speakers come from all over the world. We currently have teachers from Paraguay, Mexico, Chile, Honduras, España, Venezuela. Lots of different Spanish-speaking countries represented here in our teaching staff. And Spanish has become part of kind of what the whole school does, whether you're in the immersion track or in the traditional track.
The mission of La Casa de Amistad is to empower the Latino Hispanic community through cultural advocacy, educational services, and a welcoming bilingual environment. And my role here at the center is development coordinator. So essentially it's some of the fundraising and event coordinating, but I also oversee our City ID programs in South Bend, Plymouth, Goshen, and hopefully soon in Elkhart. We were founded in 1973, and we were founded to help the migrant community that was in our area. So we had a lot of migrant farm workers who were in town. And some of our original founders and Father John Phelan said, you know, they've got their kids and the kids need to catch up in schooling. So let's put a center together, or let's put a space together where we can help tutor some of these students. So initially it started with working with teens whose parents were migrant farm workers. Then the family settled here, so then we needed a preschool. And then after we had the preschool, the kids were getting older, so we needed after school tutoring. After school tutoring began, and then it was like, you know what, we need English classes. And then it was citizenship courses, and then legal immigration clinic. But ultimately, we've tried to find ways, and through our programming, to empower our community. Being the hub, we essentially become the Latino Google. Folks call us and say, hey, what's the number to the bilingual department of the school corporation, instead of calling the school corporation and saying transcommunity bilingual department. Or because of redlining going on in the area and all the houses that are being rented in our community, folks are saying, what rights do I have? Really, it becomes a little bit of everything for the Latino community. But me, myself, as an immigrant, as someone who came here when I was 5 years old, growing up, my family came to this food pantry. So the food pantry has been a pillar of this space, and it's great for it to come full circle for me and for me to be here for now 4 years to continue to serve our community, my community, and ultimately my family.
Our fundamental mission is to give glory to God through the total education of every Holy Cross student. But we look at that through a diversity lens and really have kind of prided ourselves on the fact that the school is as diverse as it is.
It was a way to build what the United States Conference of Catholic Bishops has called the challenge of establishing intercultural communities of understanding. Not just respect, not just tolerance, but deep understanding, where through the children, you help parents come together to understand the richness of each other's drive to understand their faith better and the unlimited possibilities that might exist for families to grow in ways that they never thought of.
Hi, my name is Zoe,
I knew it would change our school. I had no idea that in the first year it would excite everybody so much.
I was very happy to see it. I was actually pretty envious because I would have loved for my kids who are in their 20s now to have been able to have that program.
Honest to goodness, it has breathed new life into this school. There's a sense of wonder, there's a sense of like something big is happening, and just happiness. I think it's the coolest thing that I've ever seen.
And I think it's really transformed teaching and learning across the school building, not just in our immersion classrooms.
And even being on the traditional side gives me I get to watch what happens with all of the kids that are in that immersion program and the teachers that are teaching it, and I can stand on the outside and just watch it happen.
I once had a very wise person tell me that the way to get along in the world is adapt and overcome.
So you see all the possibilities that happen just because you're doing something different, but it's grounded. It's not easy always, but it's grounded.
¿Qué vemos? ¿Qué dice aquí abajo? Veo hojas y ramas. ¿Ra qué?
Ya tengo bebé.
La mamá tiene bebé y ellos no sabían. Cuando miraron desde cerca dijeron, ¡ah! ¡Sorpresa, huevos! ¿Qué de noche?
Porque la luna.
La luna, la foto.
You would have told me in 3 years' time that we would have made the strides we've made already. I'd have thought, no, it'll take until we get to 8th grade. Not true. It made a profound effect. It's really neat. I really do feel like we have His blessing because we are doing exactly what Catholic education began in this country to be. We're just getting back to who we are, and that feels great.